If you stare long enough into the deep ocean, or like if you look up into a completely clear, lightless night sky, you eventually realize you aren't just looking at nothingness.
Right, yeah, it's not just an empty void.
Exactly. You're looking at this heavy, incredibly dense, powerful medium. I mean, it has its own gravity, its own physical weight, just holding everything else within it in this state of suspension.
It's a very specific feeling.
It really is. And that almost overwhelming feeling of stepping into a vast unknown is, well, it's exactly the sensation that hits you when you stand in front of Anupam Gupta's latest abstract canvas. Welcome to today's custom deep dive, by the way. Our mission today is to visually decode this striking piece of artwork by Gupta, who also goes by Muchu.
And this piece, it really forces a confrontation. Because usually, when we walk into a gallery, our brains are just desperate for a quick translation.
Totally. We want the easy answer.
Yeah, we look for a bowl of fruit, or a landscape, or a portrait. We want to identify the subject, put a label on it, and just move on. Human visual processing is fundamentally built for pattern recognition.
And threat detection, right?
Exactly. If we can name the thing in front of us, we feel safe.
Which is why stepping into the world of pure abstraction can feel so jarring. There's no white placard handing you the answer. You are suddenly dealing with an entirely different language.
You can't just passively look.
No, you have to actively decode the physical object in front of you. And I do mean a physical object. If you lean in close to this piece, you don't see some slick, glossy, high-definition digital surface.
Right, it's very tactile.
It is. You see this raw, bumpy, uneven canvas weave. You can literally see where the paint caught on the ridges of the fabric. It gives the whole thing a dumply tactile, almost rustic feel.
The human hand is intensely present here. That visible texture is a constant anchor, reminding you that, well, human hands crafted this experience.
It grounds it.
Yeah, it grounds the abstraction in the physical world, keeping it from floating off into some purely digital or theoretical realm.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the very first thing that hits you when you look at this crafted object isn't the texture, it's the color. I mean, the vast majority of this canvas is swallowed by an intense, deep, cobalt blue.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, and my immediate instinct, just based on how we usually look at pictures, is to categorize all that blur as negative space. Like it's just the empty room where the actual painting happens.
What's fascinating here is how the mechanics of our own optical perception start working against that exact assumption.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, that cobalt blue is not a passive backdrop. It is a highly active participant. If you analyze the brushwork, you see that the blue isn't just this flat, uniform color dumped from a bucket.
Right, it's got texture to it.
Exactly. There are patches where it is visibly darker, bordering on indigo, and then other areas where the brush skipped lightly over the canvas weave, creating a slightly brighter, kind of worn texture.
It feels thick, almost oppressive.
And that perceived weight comes from how our eyes process blue light. You see shorter wavelengths, like blue. They scatter more easily in our eyes.
Oh, is that why distant mountains always look blue?
That's exactly why. And why vast expanses of it create an illusion of immense depth. It's atmospheric perspective at play.
So it's tricking our eyes.
Yeah, because cobalt is such a deep, light-absorbing pigment, it establishes this moody, vast stage. And mechanically, this creates visual tension. It forces the brighter, warmer colors in the painting, the reds, the cyans, the yellows, to fight against the background.
Wow, okay, so they aren't resting on the blue.
No, they are violently repelling it.
That brings us right back to that deep ocean analogy. The blue is the heavy water, and now we have to look at what is actively fighting against it, just floating right in the middle of this vast space.
Which brings us to the center of the canvas.
Right, dead center, there's a triangle. It's a much lighter blue, like a bright cyan or aqua. It's pointing straight upward, and hovering around its three sides is this distinct, glowing halo made of dashed red lines.
Geometrically and historically, an upward-pointing triangle resting on a flat base is, well, it's the ultimate symbol of stability.
Because it won't roll away.
Exactly. But the upward point draws the human eye vertically. It suggests ascension or an elevated consciousness. It acts as a profound point of meditation. It is incredibly still.
I'm looking at this cyan triangle, and honestly, next to the other major shape on this canvas, it feels completely overpowered.
You mean the sun?
Yeah, just to the top right of the triangle, floating a bit higher, is this massive, bright red circle. I mean, it looks exactly like a sun. It has a solid red core, but then there are these jagged, spiky, radiating lines shooting out from it in all
It's a
directions.
stark contrast.
It really is. If the triangle is silent, that red sun is a roaring engine.
The visual competition between those two shapes is honestly a masterclass in the psychology of color theory.
So,
Well, warm colors, like that aggressive red, physically appear to advance toward the viewer. Their longer wavelengths actually focus slightly behind the retina.
oh, wow. So our eyes literally see it coming at us.
Yes. While cool colors, like the cyan of the triangle, naturally recede. So you have a cool, still, ascending shape forced to coexist next to a warm, explosive, radiating shape that is optically charging right at you.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. You mentioned the cyan triangle receding.
Right.
If it's receding and the background is that deep, endless cobalt void, I mean, is it possible the triangle isn't actually a solid object at all?
What do you...
What if it's just the background void itself, but concentrated or illuminated, like a window opening up into an even deeper part of the space?
Oh, I see. If we follow that logic, it dramatically shifts the narrative of the canvas.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, the triangle isn't a foreign object hanging in the sky. In that reading, it is an awakening of the space itself. It belongs there naturally.
But the red sun doesn't. I mean, red is the complete opposite of blue on this canvas. It feels entirely invasive.
It's very disruptive.
Yeah, it feels like this roaring kinetic energy source just crashed into this quiet, concentrated blue universe, and it's threatening to completely overwhelm it.
Yet, the canvas doesn't feel overwhelmed, does it?
No, it doesn't, which is weird.
Notice how the quiet cyan triangle has that halo of red dashes around it.
Oh, or
Rather than being destroyed by the red sun, the triangle appears to be absorbing some of that kinetic energy, filtering it, and organizing it into a neat dashed border.
yeah,
It is actively domesticating the chaos.
that's a great way to put it. But this cosmic floating meditation, it doesn't last. The painting doesn't let you just float away in the tension between the sun and the triangle.
No, it pulls you back down.
It violently anchors you back to reality with what's happening on the far left side of the canvas.
The celestial gives way to the mechanical.
Entirely. On the left side, there is this massive, structured, vertical column. I mean, it looks like a totem pole or maybe a heavy piece of machinery.
It's very rigid.
Super rigid. It has a yellow base, and running horizontally across it are these very deliberate light blue stripes. Then at the top of the column, the pattern shifts to vertical red lines.
And then the bottom.
Yeah, the whole thing terminates at the bottom in a sharp, downward pointing triangle outlined in red with a light blue center. It literally looks like the tip of a giant needle or a pencil.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, consider the psychological impact of introducing right angles into a cosmic void.
It's super jarring.
It is. Up until this point, we've discussed floating triangles, radiating circles, and deep atmospheric space. These are organic or at least celestial forms.
Right, things you might find in nature.
Exactly. But this column introduces segmentation and absolute rigidity. Human architecture relies on right angles, while nature generally avoids them. If the right side of the canvas is a dream, the left side is a blueprint.
My immediate thought when I see a blueprint or a machine in a painting is to try and figure out what it does. Like, why drop a heavy manufactured obelisk into a sky?
It demands an explanation.
Exactly. So what does this all mean? Look at the top of the column. It has those vertical red stripes, and that red is the exact same aggressive, invasive red as the roaring sun on the right.
Let's trace that visual path. Our eyes are drawn to the brightest, warmest point first, which is the sun.
So we start at the sun, and that energy feels like it's just blasting everywhere.
Right.
But then my eye catches the red vertical stripes at the top of the machine on the left. It's almost as if the machine is intercepting that chaotic solar flare.
I like that reading.
And if you follow the lines of the machine, those horizontal blue stripes, they segment it, organize it, and then the whole structure points violently downward with that sharp needle.
Yeah.
Is this column functioning as, like, a grounding wire?
The structural composition certainly supports that. The artist is using the geometry of the column as a vector.
The vector.
Yeah, a vector in art is a line that directs the viewer's eye along a specific path. By contrasting the chaotic, omnidirectional spikes of the sun with the rigid, unidirectional point of the needle, Gupta gives the abstract energy of the cosmos a physical destination.
It forces us to look down.
Yes, it forces us to look down from the sky.
It's literally like falling through space and finally arriving at the surface of a planet. Because the moment you follow that downward pointing needle to the bottom of the canvas, the straight lines and rigid machinery just completely disappear.
A total shift in language.
Yeah, we're suddenly looking at these fluid, sweeping, organic shapes.
This raises an important question regarding abstract composition, actually. How do you prevent a canvas with a cosmic void, an explosive sun, and a rigid machine from simply fracturing into three unrelated paintings?
Oh, that's true. It could just feel like a mess.
Exactly. The human brain craves unity. If elements are too disjointed, we experience cognitive dissonance and we just look away. Gupta solves this through the organic elements at the bottom, which act as an anchor.
Right below the central floating triangle, there is this sweeping yellow-green shape. It doesn't have the harsh angles of the column. It swoops and curves.
It's very flowing.
Yeah, it looks like the undulating ridge of a mountain range or maybe a bird in mid-flight. It feels incredibly earthy.
It establishes a literal ground. It's an earthly counterpoint to the cosmic sky above and that mechanical logic to the left.
And tucked right under that sweeping yellow-green landscape at the very bottom edge of the canvas is another organic form. It is a solid, green, semicircular shape, outlined in a bright red border.
Which is really interesting.
It vaguely but undeniably resembles a human head and shoulders seen from behind.
Introducing an observer figure at the bottom edge of a frame is a classic technique. It dictates the scale of a landscape.
Oh, it makes everything else look huge.
Exactly. It makes the void above feel infinitely larger because we are naturally placing ourselves in the position of that tiny green figure watching the celestial and mechanical drama unfold overhead.
But the outline of that observer is red. And this brings us to what might be the most crucial unifying element of the entire piece. Something we touched on with the triangle but haven't fully explored yet.
You mean the recurring red motifs?
Yes, the red dashes and dots. They aren't just forming a halo for the cyan triangle, they are scattered all across the cobalt blue.
They're everywhere once you start looking.
Hi. There is a group of them lined up vertically to the left of the triangle. There's a distinct grouping of exactly 5 red dashes standing upright at the bottom right corner. There are clusters on the far right edge.
This is where we see the Gestalt psychological principle of continuation at work.
Continuation.
Yeah, when our brains see a series of disconnected dots or lines sharing a similar color or trajectory, we automatically string them together. We just refuse to see them as isolated marks.
Oh, we make a pattern out of them.
Exactly. We see them as a path, a rhythm, or a unified language flowing across the canvas.
I look at those red dashes and I don't just see a path. When you combine them with our theory about the column acting as a grounding wire, I see Morse code.
A transmission of data.
Yes. Think about the narrative we've uncovered here. You have this massive, roaring, red sun blasting pure, chaotic energy. It's too loud, too primal to understand. But the mechanical column on the left intercepts it, funnels it down through logical, rigid segmentation, and somehow that energy is translated. Those scattered red dots are the translation.
I love that interpretation.
The sun's intense heat is broken down into a subtle, rhythmic, coded language that pulses across the deep blue. And it's a language that the organic green figure at the bottom can actually perceive and process.
By translating the chaotic energy into rhythmic data, the artist stitches the disparate zones together. Without those red dashes acting as visual stepping stones across the deep blue, the painting would honestly collapse under its own weight.
It would be too heavy.
Yeah, the sun would pull too hard to the right and the heavy column would drag the left side down. But the red dashes, this visual heartbeat, they distribute the energy perfectly across the void.
It is a stunning display of compositional balance. We've gone on quite a journey with this single canvas today.
We really have.
I mean, we started by plunging into a vast, physically heavy, highly textured cobalt ocean. We witnessed the tension between the quiet, ascending meditation of an illuminated cyan triangle and the blazing, aggressive kinetic energy of an invasive red sun.
We then explored how that tension was intercepted by the architecture of logic, that rigid, segmented column that pulls the energy out of the sky and grounds it.
And finally, we followed that grounding wire down to the earthy, organic forms at the bottom, discovering a quiet observer watching a visual heartbeat of red dashes, a coded message tying the vast universe together into something legible.
It really dismantles the idea that abstract art is just some arbitrary arrangement of shapes, doesn't it?
Oh, completely?
It is a highly deliberate, meticulously constructed ecosystem of meaning. It plays directly on human psychology, color theory, and our innate desire to find order in the void.
Which brings us back to where we started today. When you walk into a museum and immediately look for a little white placard to give you the literal answer, tell you it's a bowl of fruit or a landscape, you rob yourself of the journey.
You bypass the cognitive thrill of decoding the visual language. You completely miss the Morse code pulsing right in front of you.
You skip the conversation entirely. So I want to leave you with a final lingering thought. A challenge that extends far beyond the edges of Anupam Gupta's canvas.
I think they're ready for it.
The next time you find yourself looking at a seemingly empty space, maybe it's a blank wall in a quiet room, or maybe you are just staring up into a dark, clear night sky, just pause for a moment.
Take it in.
Yeah. Ask yourself what invisible geometries, what underlying structured logic, and what unseen radiant energies might actually be at play, quietly organizing the reality right in front of you. Stop looking for the label and start looking for the red dashes of connection in your own daily life, because the closer you look and the more you actively decode, the less empty the void really is.